Fernandez, who is the GIS specialist here in the GIS Secretariat of FAO, who will share with us a presentation, talking about the global overview and also the panorama of NIAS in the world. Aurélie, over to you. I think you are muted.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. So as introduced, we will now dive into the panorama, how NIAS frameworks, or what is the current situation of the NIAS frameworks in the globe. So very briefly, from what we've seen and what we will see in other countries, NIAS can be translated into the adoption of the GIS concept at national level. This can be implemented through two main ways that are strongly connected. The first one is the integration of the GIS concept through legal and institutional instruments. It means establishing a legal status for the recognized systems. Having this framework helped defining the governance systems, who is responsible for what, for the management, who will prepare the application documents, but also who will be responsible for the good implementation of the activities after designation. This covers also financing mechanisms. Very concretely, it means embedding. It means that there are efforts to embed within legal and institutional tools actions for conservation, awareness raising, as we've seen with the Japanese example, but also research and monitoring. The second step that is also very much connected is the development of a national heritage network. So not all systems are compliant with the 5GS selection criteria, but it doesn't mean that those systems are not strategic or important for a country. So developing a national heritage networks is also very important for countries to adapt the concept to their own strategies and priorities without a global status. It means developing a national system for agricultural conservation. This can also support the preparation for future GIS candidature, as we've seen that it is happening in Japan. Regarding the different countries that currently have a NIAS system, as we've seen, there is Japan, Korea, and China, but also Ecuador and Chile have developed their own NIAS framework. For most of them, at the exception of Ecuador, they have all started first with the designation of GIS sites, which served as a pilot phase to understand how the tool is working, what are the impacts, and how can this be adapted to the national priorities, how can this be aligned with national priorities, and then they have developed their own NIAS framework. Only Ecuador started first with NIAS, designated 8 different systems, and out of these 8, they presented 2 to FAO. In parallel to these countries that already have a NIAS framework in place, we know that there is a growing interest at the global level to develop NIAS. So we know that Morocco is currently working on that. We also know that Thailand, Costa Rica, and Iran are also actively working to develop and adapt the GIS concept at national level. As it was introduced with the Japanese example, we also have, this is also a table that recaps a little bit the adaptation of the selection criteria. So for GIS, we know that for NIAS in Japan, we know that there are 3 more criteria. For example, in Korea, local participation was considered as an independent criteria. In Ecuador, they have also added the provision of environmental and social services. And very interesting is also the Chinese case, as they have included the endangered situation of the systems, which is also very key. and the demonstration effect, which is also very interesting in the way that how these excellent GS systems and NIAS systems, how these sustainable agricultural systems by themselves, but also with good activities for a sustainable conservation, can be further disseminated to other regions or other similar systems. Regarding coordination and financing, so the leadership is taken at the county level in China. We saw also that for Japan, it was mainly local governments leading it. But for Korea, Ecuador, and Chile, it is mainly the central governments. Regarding financing, the responsibility of preparing the application and implementing the conservation actions and development actions after designation, or the responsibility of the local governments for both China and Japan. For Korea, we know that they have developed grants and financial support mechanisms to NIAS sites to apply to the GS system. And regarding Ecuador and Chile, it is a shared responsibility for the cost and financing, also with participation of the international cooperation. As it was mentioned, the connection with GS, most of the time, the sites are first designated as NIAS before becoming GS, but this is not compulsory. And we had a good example with the case study from Japan. It is not always connected. And regarding the coordination, in the 5 countries, there is always one ministry leading the overall coordination of NIAS and also its connection with GS. Another key aspect of developing a national framework is connected to monitoring and evaluation. This is key because it allows to set clear governance structures and guide stakeholders to define who will be doing the monitoring and evaluation and how and when. So this is key because with the help of legal instruments and decrees, it is binding stakeholders to report at national level and agree on timelines. So from the global experience, some countries are requesting annual, biannual, or reports every 5 years, depending on the country. And this at FAO, at the GS Secretariat level, it is also very key because these reports really contribute to our own database to know how the systems are doing, how the countries are doing, and what are the impacts of the NIAS and GS designations. In conclusion, we know that there is a growing traction regarding the development of NIAS frameworks. This is a recurrent demand from member countries because it is key to develop a structure that allow the good GS and NIAS implementation on the long run. Why? Because it provides the national authorities with a structured and formal platform to define the commitments and the actors involved. What is very interesting is that NIAS is an adaptable tool. As we've seen, there is no one way to do. Each country shall adapt either the criteria, either the governance structure to its own context to ensure that it will work well and it will allow the good conservation of the systems. One key element to mention is that having a legal national framework and the monitoring and evaluation system is a key element to allow certification and differentiation strategies for product and services. We know that one of the key impacts that are foreseen by GS sites and NIAS sites is a better commercialization and valorization of the products. But this will be possible only if great efforts are paid to raise awareness, but also to guarantee a safe and secure environment for the consumers. Then, yes. So from the FAO perspective, seeing that there is this growing number of countries adopting the NIAS framework, we can interpret that this is a great success of the GIAS concept, because it means that countries understood that the approach has an impact and has the potential to have even a bigger impact if adopted at national level. So this is very rewarding for us, because we understand how important we can contribute to the safeguard of agricultural heritage systems worldwide. Thank you very much. And this is all for the brief overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Aurélie, for this overview. As you know, this overview is very important because it sets the scene, based on what we observe from the Secretariat on the current practices. As you know, there are like some commonalities, and at the same time, they have some specific, aspect that are in the NIAS as we observe them. And